When planning a course or a workshop, we begin by defining performance objectives and learning objectives. Some may ask why we use these terms rather than simply speaking of general objectives and specific objectives. We refer to performance objectives rather than general objectives to emphasize that the objectives describe what the participants will be able to do at the end of the course or workshop. Similarly, we refer to learning objectives rather than specific objectives to keep focused on what the participants will do during the workshop. We could consider that performance objectives are a subset of general objectives, just as learning objectives are a subset of specific objectives. They are a particular kind of general or specific objectives. In order to formulate a performance objective, we do not focus on what we want to teach. Rather, we focus on what we want the participants to be able to do. A performance objective responds to the question, what do I want the participants to be able to do at the end of the course or workshop? And we take into account aspects of the topic that are useful to the participants, the prior knowledge of the participants, and the time available. A performance objective begins with the phrase, at the end of the training or workshop, the participants will be able to, and then we write what we want them to be able to do. For example, at the end of these 2 units, the participants will be able to design a learning session on one or more elements of transformative leadership. When writing a performance objective, we need to be careful to use active, observable verbs. Here we have some examples of those types of verbs, such as analyze, define, exemplify, investigate, apply, compare, diagram, explain, use, and there are many, many more. Observable verbs give the participants the opportunity to demonstrate what they have learned. We avoid verbs that only refer to mental processes that we cannot observe, such as know, learn, or understand. In a longer workshop or course, we also need learning objectives. If the performance objective focuses on a limited aspect of a topic, it is not always necessary to break it down into learning objectives. We use learning objectives when the achievement of the performance objective implies mastering various subtopics. However, we would never use just one learning objective. If we have only one learning objective, it is better to incorporate it into the performance objective itself. In order to formulate learning objectives, we ask ourselves the question, what do the participants need to learn in order to carry out the performance objective? A learning objective begins with the phrase, during the course or the workshop, the participants will take part in, and then we describe the objective. Again, to write the objective, we use active, observable verbs. Here is an example of a performance objective with its corresponding learning objectives. At the end of the first 5 units of this course, the participants will be able to explain the need for transformative leadership in today's world. The corresponding learning objectives are, during the course, the participants will take part in 1. Analyzing the processes of disintegration and integration in today's world and what each of us can do. 2. Questioning prevalent mental models of human nature, society, and leadership. 3. Indicating actions they can take in organizations in which they are involved in order to move them closer to the ideal of deliberative democracy based on consultation. 4. Explaining how elements of transformative leadership help to overcome the problems examined previously. At the beginning of this presentation, we saw another example of a performance objective related to the 2 units that we are studying now. In other words, in a longer course, we may also have more than one performance objective.